Hello guys, welcome to the part one video of Swift programming language for absolute beginners. Now in this series, we will be looking at variables, constants, and its uses. We also consider type safety, type inference, type alias, and we also see how we can define tuples, optional values, and optional binding. Now let's get into Xcode to get started. Now in Xcode, let's start with variables. Now to declare a variable in Swift, we type var, the var keyword, then we can give the variable a name. So for this, I'm going to call it name. After that, we introduce colon, then we will give the type of the variable. We have different type of variable in Swift. We have int, you can see we have int, we have doubles for decimals, and so many, and even custom type as well. Now, for this variable, let me just set this to a string. Now, to set it to a string of a type string, I'm going to type this type string and then assign it to some values. So let me call this hello Sunji. Now let's print this to console and see what we've been able to do. So to print to console, we type print and then let's run it and then wait for it to run. Now build succeeded. Now on the console we can see hello Sunji. Now one thing about variable, once we use var, is that we can also, variable is immutable, which simply means that we can also assign that value that we declared earlier, the name, to another, give it another value. So now we can also set name. So hello, let me say hello name now to hello Thomas. And if we print name now, we can see that the new value will be, the value printed to the console will now be hello Thomas instead of hello Tunji. So that's variable. Now let's move to constants. Or before we move ahead, let me also show us, we can also define multiple variables if they are of the same type on the same line by separating them with comma. So we can define multiple variables like let's say var. Then if let's now say height, let me say height, comma, age, comma, age, then you cannot put a colon and then indicate the type. Let's say it's int. It's int. So we can define multiple variables as well on the same line. So what this does is that we decline two variables, height and age, of type int. We didn't assign it to any value yet. So now let's move ahead. Now, this we will be looking at constants. Now, constants. Now, to declare constants in Swift, we use the keyword let and then the variable name. In this case, I'm going to set the variable name to age. So because of that, I wanted to let me comment out this. So age, and then age here is of type int, and then I'll set it to some age. So let's say 23. Now I've declared an age. So what this does is that this is a constant with a name age of type int set to a value of 23. Now let's print this to console and see what we have. Print age. So let's run this. Now it's building. You succeeded. Now we can see now it's 23. Now, we reassign, when we declare variable earlier on, we reassign it and we don't have any errors. So let's try to reassign the age we declare here to another values. We should get a compile time error which says now cannot assign value to age. It's a let and it's a constant. So which means that once you declare a constant, you can't change it, it's immutable. Now Let's move to type safety. Type safety. So the switch comes with a feature that prevents us from mistakenly assigning a value of different type to another type. And what do I mean by that? Let's consider this. Let's say we have a variable of house colon, which is type of string. Sorry, string. It's a type of string. And then we give it we assign it, give some values. Let's just give it hello. Now, let's now try to assign this value now. We assign this value to an int. House. Now assigning to, let's say, 45. So we should see a compiler error here because now as you can see, we cannot assign value of type int into a type string. So it comes with that feature, and this helps us a lot to avoid a lot of issues down the line. So because it's more easier to fix a compile time error than a runtime error. Now, let's move to type inferences. Type inference. So now, the type inference simply enable us to write our variable in a shorthand version. That is, we don't need to indicate the type. No, but we consider this the name variable should declare. We declare, we put a name, give the type of string, but we don't actually have to do that because it starts that comes with this feature of type inference where from the value we assign to it can detect the type it was meant to be. So now let's look at this now, for example. Let me comment out this house. Let's use this house declaration we did early. So let me copy this, put it here, and comment out this. And comment out this. So now we can as well remove this string. Well, that's what I finished. Let us do. So if I remove this string, so from this, the Swift language will detect that this is actually a string. And we can see that if we try to reassign this value to an int, for example, which should give us a compile time error. You can see even the SQL cannot assign the value of type int because it has already detected without indicating the type of the variable we declared. Now we are going to look at tuples. Tuples enable us to be able to define multiple values of different property in a compound way, which means that, for example, in a function we can return multiple values of different type. And let's see how we can declare a tuple, for example. So tuple. Now to declare a tuple, we can do var var, let's call this status code. Let's assign it to, then we put it in this. So we can call it 4, let me put it 401. And then a message. Let's call it bad request. Now this is a tuple. You can see now that we declared a tuple which contains a type of int and also a string. Now to access the value of a tuple, we do that by like this. So let me just print it. So let's put print. Let's put print. Now we can put status code point dot. So we have O. We start from 0, just like an array. So we have 0, which indicates the first item, 1 second item, and if it's 3 items, we have 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 4, 0, 1 to 3 for 4 items, like that. So now if we print this to the console, the expectation is that we should have the status code, which is 401, So let's run it and see what it gives us. Now we can see that on our console now we have a status code of 401. And also if we do it for, we can as well also do it, we can also put here, we can also do it, let's just put 1 to access the message itself. And then now we have bad requests. So now another thing we can do to make it more readability is that we can also indicate key here. So for example, we can do code colon and also message colon. So now instead of using 10 now, we can directly use code on this and we still have our code, which is 401. The build succeed. So now we now have 401. As well, we can also check our messages using our message to get our message like that. And then we can also access the value. Another way we can also access the value is to like deconstruct it. Like, so let's do this. So to deconstruct, let's put the constant and then let's put the code, comma, and message here, message. Then if we set it to status code, then we should be able to access. Then once we print out those code and messages, it should still give us the same as the way we have been accessing those properties before, those values of the tuples before. So let me just print this to the console. Print. Now let me put code as well. I wanted to do for print. Message. Now let's run this. You succeed. Now you can see now we have 401 bad request. So now that's another way we can do that. So now let's now move to optional values. Optional values. Now, to declare an optional value, note this is used when there's no guarantee that the variable or the constant we are declaring is going to have any value. Or the variable, most of the time it's variable. We can't use constant. So most of the time we use it for variables. So when we are not sure that the variable we are declaring is going to have a value, let's now look at how we can make that the variable we are declaring as an optional. So this is how we do that. So we type var, use the var keyword. Let's give it name some optionals, and then assign it to a type of string. And let me put this. Let me put it to become. Let me put to indicate it's optional. Now I will use the question mark in front of it. Then I can still assign it to a value if I like. For this particular, maybe you can assign it to values for this. So now let me just say great to be here. Great. Let's use the word great. And now if we print this to the console, let's see what we have. Some optionals. To make this clearer, let me remove this other things I've printed the console previously. So now let's run this. So now we now have optional grades. So what it tells us is that once we declare something as an optional, we need to use something called optional binding. We need to something like an optional binding to check if it has a value. Based on that, we can set that value inside that and then access those values. So to do an optional binding, let's do an optional binding. First, let me comment this out. Because we said it's new. So the best thing to do is to check first. So we can do if we declare a constant or some name. We can put any name here, any name. Let me just call it any name. any name, and then we set it to some optionals, and then now I can let me introduce the curly braces. Let's now print the properties out. Let's print the constant we should declare, which is any name, So now let's print this to the console and see what we have. You succeeded, and now you can see we have the grade. And if this let is equals to nil, then this becomes nil, which is supposed to return nil. And to see that, let me comment this out. Let me comment this out. So I now have some optionals. I've printed this. So now let me remove these values. And let's see what we have if we don't set any values to it. Let's see the value that this property will return. So now we can see we now have nil. So now let's now look at how we can unwrap an optional variables. Unwrapping and optionals. Let me put it here. Unwrapping optionals variables. Unwrapping optionals variable for. So to do that, I'm still going to use this, and I'm going to now assign it to another value again. Let me just call this grade. Let me use this optional that we declared earlier. Let's just call this grade now. Now, let's declare another variable. Let's call it var. Have values. Let's call it variable name have values. Now let me set this equals to this some optionals, and let's see what will happen. Now some optional. I didn't indicate the type. Let me indicate this type of the value is string, not an optional. Now we should get a compile time error. Say value optional of string must be unwrapped to a value of type string. Now, how do we unwrap the value optional of string to a type of string? How do we unwrap it? To do that is very simple. We just have to include an exclamation mark here, and then we've unwrapped that value. So now when we print this to the console, our program should work. So let's print this to the console. Have values, and let's see what will happen. So now we now have grade. Which means our quotation, although there's some warning due to the optionals we should put here. So guys, this is the end of this video. Thanks for following along. Please don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and share. Thank you. See you in the next video.